Now we just gotta wait for people. That's a pretty sick skin, but I'm not gonna waste time with it. Ice Spice. Frick. Welcome everybody to the stream. Anybody who's joining, anything like that? Made the announcement on the YouTube and Discord. I can't believe a freaking year's gone by since the last stream this month. I'm obviously not going to spoil anything because, you know, that would ruin the entire enjoyment of the freaking stream. Got last stream during this month got 91 views and 4 likes. Maybe this one could actually join more. Get more people. Who knows? Who the frick knows? Who the frick knows? So weird streaming on a Tuesday. But then again, I did the Ones Who Live streams. I did. It's me, Ozarks. Don't think I know you. I might. Don't know. I don't think I ever paid attention if there was a Ozarks. Can't say. But if I do know you, welcome back, I guess? Frick. Okay. So you're saying it's been a minute since you were on the channel, like a long one. Because I got rid of all them jokers back in the middle of last year. Possibly, it was like right before, or like right in the beginning phases of summer. KJ was the last one. Not to say that those are the last trolls that will ever be seen on the channel, because I know there will be more as I grow bigger. But I'm prepared with more people and a better mindset to get rid of anyone and everyone that wants to bring me down. Oh, they brought the infiltrator pump back? That's freaking sweet. Probably one of the best freaking shotguns in the game. Waiting for more people before we start the very nice stream. I'm obviously holding back a lot of sarcasm for those who know the date and guess what the stream's about. I thought someone was typing on my thing, but apparently not. Oh, frick! That car almost squashed his freaking brains out. Man, you have stormtrooper aim, man! Yeah. Go home. I mean, he probably is home, but you know. Get better at the game, is what I meant to say. I think I remember an Ozarks now that I think about it. It just has probably been a significant minute. Jeez. Mm-hmm. Okay. Got what I needed here. Whoa! Yeah, I was to grow these those recommending whatever's. I think one episode kept mentioning what if Troy Otto survived. Well, if it's been that long since you were here, a lot has changed since then. Also claimed I was a scene. Great, I have a flat tire now! Screw this vehicle. And I still do. Matter of fact, I just saw him, but he arrived late at the stream this past Saturday, so he wasn't in it. Yeah, you better run away! Coward. Half hour in will begin the true purpose of the stream. Even if we don't got that many people. I don't want to wait forever for maybe not even anyone to show up. Shut up! Shut up! I don't care about you, you wolf! Don't care. You're weak. Hmm. Does this one have a flat tire now, too? God, I am not lucky with frickin' tires today. And along with the true purpose of this stream, if it wasn't plainly obvious because of the day and what's going on, along with that, I have some announcements to make for the channel. So stick around. For anyone who is joining or is planning on joining or anything like that, it's going to be a fun time. Just as soon as we get some more... I think it was pretty dead, more or less, in the Lori one last year, and I'm pretty much revealing the meaning of the stream at this point. But it was pretty much dead at that one. Just over the past year, it's just 91 views and 4 likes. But hey, this stream could have better or maybe just slightly worse value in how many people are here, but we'll see. We shall see. Even if we don't get that many peeps for the stream, I'm okay. I am okay either way. Oh, no, you don't. You ain't running away from me that easy. Just because you have a Rocket League card doesn't mean you're special, alright? Any idiot can have a Rocket League car, okay? Pretty sure I've died multiple times in this location. Get over here and stand down! This Joker's really trying to freaking outrun me. He's trying to make a fool of me. This is an epic car chase right here, man. Now he's trying to get away. The frick? Someone blew him up. Not today, buddy! Anyone who's joining the stream, welcome. Half hour in, we'll get it right into the main reason why we're all here. Like I said, I hope that we get slightly better progress in the stream than last year. It's blocked. They blocked the entrance. Oh, frick, I need to leave. After all that work getting down here. This is the third freaking normal card that I... After this game's done, we'll get into the freaking stream, I guess. These three other people gotta show themselves eventually, or else I'm gonna start searching. Frick are these losers? Frick! Good. It fell into the water. Don't have to worry about it anymore. Where are these losers? Now! Let's go! First game of the stream! Boom! I have not had first game of the stream in forever. It has been a decent many streams since I had first game of the stream. That was freaking awesome. Few seconds here, and we'll get into the stream. Alright, I'm going to give it another few minutes here, and then we're going to get started talking about this year's April Fool's freaking discussion. Alright, I think we're going to get started more or less. So, here, and those who will be watching when this is over, to this year's April Fool's stream. Now, if you can tell from the back, I will slightly make it so that you can see what this stream is about. Now let's just fix her up there. What the heck? The other way is better. Okay. So, if you guys couldn't tell from the back, teases, stuff like that. This last year, for those who don't know and don't remember, I touched upon April Fools covering the best The Walking Dead character, Lori Grimes. But in actuality, I hate the absolute frick out of her. And I explained very much so in that stream for those who weren't there. And for those who weren't there, check that stream out and check out my What If Lori Survived and preview of that, my anger discussion as to why I hate her. This year, I decided early, thanks to a few reminders remembering about this, that for my hour and a half April Fool's stream this year, I'm going to touch upon the best Transformers show, Robots in Disguise. If you could tell from the back, teases and all that stuff, in the back here, you'll see Robots in Disguise. This variation is the sequel to Transformers Prime. And the worst freaking Transformers media and sequel to anything that I've ever heard of in my and seen in my life. Now, don't get me wrong, plenty of shows and movies have botched after they made a sequel. Or sometimes you'll just have really crappy originals of shows and movies, period. And I have plenty of those to discuss for the future. But this, oh my god, I can't even. You know what? I'm actually going to turn down the volume completely for my game, so that way you guys can actually, like, get me talking about this and not worrying about background volume, especially from a shooting game. That's funny. Shooting game, Transformers, and there's Transformers in Fortnite. A little bit of a funny joke there. Hey, it's April Fool's. We got to have a little bit of jokes here and there while I'm ranting. And that's the entire joke of my April Fool's videos, is I take something that you guys think that I really, 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 really like, but then remember it's April Fool's, and it's like, oh, should have known. Oh, Lord Bearskin. Cool. Anyways, yeah. Whole idea here, Robots in Disguise. Now, before I get to the rant, joke, and complete, like, disdain for this in its entirety, let me just talk about first, since that's best to describe first. I don't think I went as in-depth in the Lori stream because I also, was, a year younger and things and schedules didn't exactly make it so I could do that stream good. If I could redo it, then I would. But I'm not redoing a Lori stream because I've said all I need to say about her. This year, I'm going to do something different before I rant, make jokes, and just completely trash on this abomination of a show. So, first off, if you're not a Transformers media person or anything like that, exit the stream now, just like the Walking Dead Lori one, because besides just joking and fooling around, the stream is not for you if you're not a Transformers geek, like myself and several others who are going to be probably watching this back. So, this is Robots in Disguise. It is a sequel. Now, before I get into what it's like representing, let me just say right now that I'm going to turn up the volume at least a little tiny bit so I can at least hear a bit. There's more than one Robots in Disguise in the Transformers universe. This one is the variation of Robots in Disguise that is a sequel to Transformers Prime. I say sequel, more like complete and total abomination, because this thing did not even deserve to air as a standalone to Transformers, let alone a sequel. And that's just it. This was a standalone, yet it took many aspects from Prime and tried to make a sequel based on it. So the fact it's a standalone doesn't even help it. Not only does this suck as a sequel to a really good Transformers piece of media, probably one of the best freaking pieces of Transformers media in the history of forever, but it doesn't even make sense or stand out as a standalone piece of Transformers media. Like, look and visualize, if you can, those of you who like and know of Transformers Prime. And then, if you haven't heard or haven't looked at Transformers Robots in Disguise, you probably don't want to look into it. That is me being 110% sincere. Like, when it comes to Transformers as a series, you probably, especially for new ones, haven't heard of this. And if you have, don't look into it. Over the years, they've made some very weird and very, like, bad Transformers pieces of items. And that goes with anything. Like, for example, they say after the third Transformers live action film, the films went downhill. And yeah, most certainly they did. But those ones still stood out as good films. And yes, some of the other live actions kind of take away from the story, but almost 9 times out of 10, all of Transformers media is based on kids. But there's a difference between kids, babies, and literally destroying the Transformers universe. Because let's look at it this way. When you look at the Transformers live action films, when you look at Transformers Prime, when you look at Transformers 1, when you look at almost every piece of Transformers media, besides rescue bots and little bits and pieces of small other robots or Transformers media in general, there's almost none of them that a grown adult or teenager couldn't watch. Now, rescue bots, that is 110% for pretty much kids or babies. So that I understand if it doesn't hold up to like adults or, you know, at least teenagers, because it's not supposed to. Things like that, even if other people wish to cover them, are meant for little kids and babies because they're not going to understand the stories. And 9 times out of 10, people make Transformers material like that specifically just to put out merchandise to not only appeal to babies and little kids, but to appeal and reach out merchandise to possibly at least teenagers, or, you know, just advertise their products more and more. And you could tell me until everyone's blue in the face that Robots in Disguise is no different than that. But that's where you would honestly be wrong in that case. Because let's think about it this way. People consider the likes of Transformers Prime, people would consider the live action films to be for kids. But the only thing that makes it for kids is the Transformers themselves. But when you look at idols like Megan Fox, who was, you know, for lack of a better term, a sex symbol, even though I really shouldn't be talking like that on YouTube. For lack of a better term, you guys get more or less what I'm saying. And the fact that there was blood and, you know, big stuff involved with those films up to the third one and even beyond, then is definitely not for kids. And then you get to things like Transformers Prime. That 110% not could be for kids. On a grand level, could be for kids. But when you look at the story, when you look at the characters, the thought process, everything about Transformers Prime, it really stands out to a teenager and adult level of understanding. And it's on the live action film of Transformers Media. And it was a great show. When you look at Transformers Prime, it's up there with the early live action films. Like I said, people argue that the third, fourth, and fifth live action films sucked. And I could agree with them on a small note. But really, when you look at them, the story and understanding behind the live action films was actually really good. And I think people hate on the live action films too much. True, whenever Sam left and like Megan Fox left and everything, it went downhill because they were just forgotten about. But it didn't deprive of a good enough story to at least close the franchise. People argue like the Bumblebee movie and like Rise of Beasts and everything aren't canon, but I'd say you're wrong. Bumblebee movie is pretty much a prequel, if you really think about it. Rise of Beasts, that could be understood as a prequel too. So, my point is, Transformers Prime was one of those Transformers shows that didn't just stand out. It definitely was not for babies, like the Rescue Bots was. And I'm not hating on Rescue Bots, I'm just saying that there's no point in covering a, show like that, because it stands out to a much younger audience. But when you look at Transformers Prime, though, that is what you call pure perfection of a Transformers show. Not only did it explore so many of the Transformers characters so wonderfully, but it took the cartoonish elements that it did have and made it freaking brutal and epic all the way through. And even though a lot of the characters could have used upgrades, and a lot of them were freaking underused and underutilized, Cliffjumper, Skyquake, people who I've covered on my Omniverse before. That didn't deprive the fact that they did really good through and through with Transformers Prime. Like, honestly, besides live action films, the live action and Transformers Prime are honestly, in my opinion, the two best pieces of Transformers media ever. Like, you cannot argue with the live action films and Transformers Prime. And people also, I think, are wrong on hating for the live action films. And my brother brought this up too, because you have to look at it from this angle. You literally have giant robots talking to human beings and crashing buildings and everything. So that takes a lot of money, data, and a lot of thought process to think that through and get that down to a T. So that's why I say people hate on those films way too much. And Transformers Prime, yes, a lot of the characters and plot points in the show were underutilized, but through and through, it was a great show. Like, top notch. I could not recommend a better piece of Transformers media than Transformers Prime. Live action films would be next, because that's really my second favorite piece of Transformers media. And true, I plan on looking into other what ifs, like other characters from other pieces of Transformers media, but I'm not really thinking of watching the other shows. Not because I'm not open to watching them, it's just none of them interest me. And that's where Robots in Disguise comes into play here. Because I wanted to like Robots in Disguise. Now, before I again start ranting and talking about it, let me explain a little bit of, let's just say, backstory as to when I started hearing and thinking about Robots in Disguise. So, I first saw bits and pieces of Robots in Disguise on the TV whenever Transformers Prime and everything was still airing on the television. But I didn't know what it was because I didn't watch the full variation of Transformers Prime. You know? I didn't get to grow up to understand it, to make what ifs on it. And look at me now. I'm making what ifs on a really, really, really good show. Like, probably one of the best. And it took not only the human elements of Transformers and made them really good, but it really showed with the Autobots and the Decepticons. It made it good. And the ending of it, even though some parts of it I wish were explained just a tiny bit more, and there were maybe just a few too many, like, cliffhangers, we could have used, like, an extra bot death or something. Transformers Prime ended beautifully. Knockout turning good. Optimus sacrificing himself. Megatron finally changing. Starscream dying. And yes, I'll get to why that's actually canon in my head in a second. But through and through, Transformers Prime ended in a way that the live action films did not. Which makes me think they're planning to do more with it and not just making it a whole new rebooted universe. And I could be wrong about that, but hey, we all have our own headspaces on how we want to process things. Back on track, main point is, when I finished and rewatched Robots in Disguise, or I'm sorry, Transformers Prime recently, I'm talking the middle of last year. When I rewatched it at the middle of last year, I originally forgot again, or didn't think about the fact that Transformers Prime had a sequel. And then I started hearing about it and everything, and I'm like, no way, they made a sequel? Why haven't I heard about this? And I was really very surprised, and I was really excited to look into this because it's Transformers Prime. I can't stress this enough. A really good Transformers show. So, I expected to get into Transformers Robots in Disguise without a hitch, you know? Like, that was to be, to me at least, a very good sequel to an amazing show, right? Wrong. I could not have been more wrong in my life. So, I got an episode not even through, right? And I realized how wrong I was. I got into the beginning of Transformers Robots in Disguise, and I thought, okay, this is actually pretty decent so far. It's touching upon Cybertron, it's touching upon Bumblebee, you know? So it seemed to me that it was going to be worth my while. So I kept going. I started watching a little bit, and I'm like, no way. No way that they actually made a sequel. Maybe this will actually, like, do something in the long run. But then I started watching it more and more, and then I started looking at how much there was to offer for Robots in Disguise. And oh my god. I cannot tell you guys enough how god awful Robots in Disguise is. Like, if there was a show, not only does Robots in Disguise fail, I'm talking like utterly suck as a sequel to one of the best Transformers shows and shows in general in history, but it doesn't even make sense as a standalone, which is what they said it was. It doesn't even make any sort of sense. And I'm going to explain here little bits and pieces as to why that is. And honestly, it's so frustrating to think about. because of how good the prospect could have been. It's literally a sequel to a very good show. Like, I'm sorry if I'm sounding repetitive, but like, you can't blame me for thinking this way, honestly. And here's why. Here's to why it sucks. Okay? All right. So, we open up with Cybertron, and Bumblebee's there and everything, and it's like, okay, all right, it seems pretty freaking straightforward, right? It seems pretty freaking good. But then we get into the opening few minutes and everything, and a bit more of the plot progression, and so on and so on and so on. But there's a problem. A very, 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 I can't stress this enough, big problem. I died at 5th place. I'm okay. I got the first game of the stream, so I'm okay. There's a big problem. Not only are there new characters, okay, that we know nothing about yet, and that's fine. I could do with that. But they don't acknowledge the fact that there are other people. Like, literally. They bring back Bumblebee. They bring back Bulkhead. They bring back Ratchet. And I'm going to get to who else they bring back, which is pathetic. But guess who they don't bring back? They don't bring back Ultra Magnus. They don't bring back Knockout, who joined the freaking Autobots, for Christ's sake. That was the perfect opportunity to explain, show, and really dive into the fact that Knockout is a good guy now. And what makes it stupider is that Knockout, ever since he lost Breakdown, died to the likes of Arachnid, who I'm really going to lay into what happens with her in Robots in Disguise. But after basically Breakdown dies, the only good things he does is get the Ion Blaster, or, you know, the thing that Soundwave uses. Ion Blaster, or whatever the frick you want to call it. I'll remember the name of it later and then stupidly, like, oh, why didn't I remember this? He only used that once and teamed with the Insecticons, and then literally did not matter until he's like, oh, I'm joining the winning team. And then at the very end, he betrays Starscream. But he doesn't do anything the rest of the little bit of Transformers Prime, and he basically doesn't even show up in Robots in Disguise. Robots in Disguise was the perfect opportunity to actually give Knockout a huge character boost. And you know what happens to him? Absolutely nothing. And we don't get Ultra Magnus. We don't get Smokescreen. We don't get RC. We don't get Wheeljack. Literally almost half of the cast of characters, we get nothing. No joke. We get Bumblebee. We get Bulkhead. We get Ratchet, who shows up back on Earth. But half of the cast, nothing. We learn nothing. We don't know where they're at. We don't know what happens to them, where they are, what planet they're on, where they went, what happened to them. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's so annoying because, like, you take away half the cast just to give Bumblebee a bigger role, and he even doesn't get that huge of a role. And that moves us on forward with the story. Basically, we see that the remaining Decepticons out in space, or future generations of Autobots, and that the planet Cybertron is, you know, thriving. And that Decepticon outbreakers are getting reprimanded, and something's going on. Like, there's a plot that they don't know about that's truly going on. But we start to learn more. And then you know what happens? You know who they bring back as a Decepticon rebel? They bring back Arachnid. Now, don't get me wrong. Arachnid was a freaking, like, she was tough. Like, she was probably one of my favorite Decepticons, but my main three are Skyquake, Dreadwing, Breakdown, and honestly, that's kind of it. But anyway, she was up there. She was actually a really good Decepticon, you know? And I had absolutely nothing wrong with her character, you know? She was someone for RC to hate. She had web powers. She could become a helicopter. And she honestly was not that bad a character, even though she killed Breakdown. That was about the only thing I hated about her. And then ironically, she killed Breakdown again whenever Silas was in his body and was a Terracon. So it was like a second death for... That's another story. But that's not the problem I have with bringing Arachnid back. The problem I have with bringing Arachnid back is what happened to her in the finale of Transformers Prime. By the way, there's a John Wick skin. And a stupid Poseidon skin. Now, if you guys do not know or do not remember at the end of Transformers Prime what happened to Arachnid, I'll explain here. So basically, in the middle of Transformers Prime, Arachnid, the same episode Starscream used clones, she found a huge army of Insecticons and basically strove them to kill Megatron and then kind of the Autobots because they were there. And that was when Starscream's clones and everything were there, and both of them failed because RC basically froze her. She basically got her into an Insecticon space pod and froze her into stasis. And she actually did return right at the finale, season 3. Right at the final bit of season 3. She came back. But that's only because Silas, who was in Breakdown's body, was a Terracon. He wanted Energon and broke her thing. And she managed to get out. And then she kills him, the Insecticons come back, and then Soundwave, she doesn't get revenge on Soundwave or anything, like when she was beaten by him at the end of season 1. Instead, she just gets ground bridged, literally like RC, and it's literally just pulled out of RC, and basically what happens after that, she gets literally rifted onto the moon. But, come to find out, she was actually bitten by Terracon Silas / Breakdown. And at the end of the episode, we find out that she is a Terracon and is literally eating her own subjects, which would show you that not only are they Insecticons, but now they're Terracon Insecticons, which would have been a cool revenge plot at the very finale. But no, we don't see her again, not even at the very end. And that's not why I'm mad about her coming back in Robots in Disguise. If she came back in Robots in Disguise, that would have been amazing, because she's half Terracon. Because she seemed to possess some free will. Still, that's not what gets me. What gets me is that she shows up as a Decepticon fugitive in Transformers Robots in Disguise, but she's not a Terracon anymore, and there's no Insecticons left. Now, don't get me wrong, the only way that makes sense is if she managed to find a way to either A, eat all of her Insecticon brethren and maybe satisfy the Terracon little bit inside of her, then maybe that makes sense as to why she's no longer a Terracon. But, like, why else would she not be a Terracon? Like, literally. She literally appeared as if she wasn't, like, still a Terracon, you know? And I mean, I get it. She wasn't, like, a full Terracon. But the fact that she seems so normal and not, like, her Terracon self basically takes the entire aspect of bringing her back in this crappy sequel and literally... It's like they needed a character and they chose Arachnid. Like, literally. Bringing her back to a revenge plot would have been amazing. One final battle or something, you know? And it would have made sense to bring RC back that way, but we don't even get RC in the show. Like, literally. Like I said, we don't get RC, we don't get Magnus, we don't get Smokescreen, and we don't get Wheeljack or Knockout. Literally, half the cast for Robots in Disguise is gone, and Arachnid showing up, not Terracon, basically makes it worse. Because, like, literally, the entire prospect of her character was to be a rival to RC and then small side plots in between. But no, you literally just bring her back and it's like, that adds nothing to her character. She's literally just there as an additional side character just to, I don't know, enhance the story. But like, there's no story to enhance in the sequel because it already sucks so bad and we're not even 2 episodes in. And then we come to find out that we get to Earth, right? And they bring back Ratchet, and that's cool. Like, he stayed on Earth at the very end with Jack, Miko, and Raph. And then at the very finale, he came back to help out Ultra Magnus because he was crippled by Skylynx and Darksteel. And that's fine. And I'm guessing that he just went back to Earth because of Jack, Miko, Raphael, Agent Fowler, and Nurse Darby. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with him staying on Earth and then reappearing in the sequel. I'm perfectly content with that. But there is a problem. They introduce new human characters, and we never see Fowler again, we never see Nurse Darby, and we never see Jack, Miko, or Raphael ever again. Like, literally. And why are these new characters even involved in the first place? Like, we don't get enough character revolved around them to even understand them or care about them. So, like, if they brought Jack, Miko, Raph, Agent Fowler, and Nurse Darby to help the new characters, then I could understand, like, why they're in the story. It would have been a nice, like, passing of the torch kind of role, you know? But no, we don't get anything like that. Instead, we are literally given these characters and they add nothing to the plot. Absolutely garbage. And don't get me started on the new Autobots, Grimlock and Sideswipe, because true, their characters are pretty freaking important in the Transformers media, but not in this sequel at all. Like, in the sequel, they are next to nothing. Absolutely garbage. And that's a waste, in my opinion. Because from my understanding, like, in the Transformers franchise, especially Grimlock, from other people covering him, and especially ones like Legendary Grimlock and several others, from my understanding, Grimlock especially is a very important Transformers character. But he almost gets nothing. And throughout everything, it just gets worse. It literally just gets worse. We never see the likes of... We're missing also the last little bits of Decepticons, which there really isn't any to talk about, but let me explain the few that I'm talking about. Shockwave. We never see him again, and that honestly bothers me, because I just died. That's freaking amazing. Now we know Shockwave is alive, because it showed him talking to Skylynx, Darksteel, and Predaking at the very end, and then we never saw him again. He's like, would it not be more logical to employ your might elsewhere at this time? And then we never see him again. We see him injured, but he's not dead. Now, Starscream? Oh! I have so many problems with Starscream being alive. There are so many problems. Number one, how in the frick did Starscream come back? Literally. It shows It gives some, like, very poor explanation as to how he lives, but it's stupid. It shows that he managed to, he comes up with some bullcrap backstory, like, oh, I fought them off bravely, found some weapons, and then killed all the Predacons. Except there's a problem with that. One, he was scared out of his motherfucking life. So there's absolutely no truth behind that story, but then again, it's Starscream for you. And to add to that, there's absolutely no way that Starscream would have been able to come out of that alive. Like, if there was any point to kill Starscream besides killing Cliffjumper, and killing Cliffjumper, and the fact that Megatron had several freaking opportunities throughout the entire franchise to kill Starscream. And he was crippled multiple times. He lost an arm, for Christ's sake, and even tried to raise an undead warrior, Skyquake. And he almost got locked in the freaking... He almost got locked in the altered zone with the ground bridges, which I'll mention more on that in a minute regarding Soundwave, because that's actually one of the few points that doesn't suck in the entire show. But there's absolutely no way. That was the point at the very end of Transformers Prime that you could have literally finally killed Starscream and been done with him. Because even after Megatron finally understood that ruling and being evil wasn't worth it anymore, after being controlled by Unicron and Optimus teaming up with him again, and him, you know, going off and saying the Decepticons are no more, and Starscream tried to rule and be like, I'll just avenge the Decepticons in my name. And then Predaking, Skylynx, and Darksteel show up to get their revenge for all the torture Starscream put them all through, right? That's the biggest moment that you literally could have freaking killed Starscream right then and there. Bye, Starscream. He was a cool and, like, very, like, Loki kind of character. Like, him and Loki were very alike in so many ways. And any Starscream or Loki fan knows what I'm talking about. But there's a problem. He gets brought back. And it shows him killing the Predacons, and that's fine. If there was a way that he could find a way to get through them, crippled, let me say that again, crippled, I'm talking like missing multiple limbs and crippled, and then killing them with the weapons, that would have made sense. Now, assume that happened. You would think that Starscream would make it out, and that's a good enough reason to bring him back into Transformers Robots in Disguise, right? Well, there's so many, there's one huge problem with that. And something that doesn't get discussed for the entire show. And something that honestly disgraces the entire reason of the Predacons' existence. They never bring up Predaking. And I died again, literally. They never bring up Predaking. Oh, it shows Skylynx and Darksteel. But it never brings up Predaking. Like, I get it. Maybe he could kill Skylynx and Darksteel. After all, the Autobots were able to put a hold on Project Predacon like that. And Skylynx and Darksteel? Oh yeah, you could definitely kill them. But Predaking was so unbelievably godly strong that Wheeljack and Magnus fought the hardest they could. Magnus got his freaking arm stomped, and the both of them almost died. Optimus Prime couldn't beat him, not in normal mode, and not in beast mode. And if given the chance, if he had fought him as a beast and Starscream didn't, Predaking would have literally killed Megatron. He even pointed out that if Predaking had become infected by Silas, nothing could have stopped him. And the fact that Starscream is so unbelievably stupid that he thinks that some weapon could kill Predaking and that the show leaves us with the fact that that might be the case, I'm sorry, but that is the biggest piece of utter bullcrap that I've ever heard of in my life. So what? Did the developers just forget that Predaking existed? Like, literally. What was the point? And you realize Predaking is the first Predacon introduced in the Transformers Prime universe. So the fact that they literally just focus on Skylinks and Darksteel and never mention, bring back, or even acknowledge that Predaking exists is like, they literally did to him what they did to Magnus, Smokescreen, Knockout, Wheeljack, the humans. They literally just made him vanish. They were like, oh, this character used to be here? Oh, better get rid of that. No, you do not get rid of a character that freaking huge in the franchise. That's like if you take out Rick Grimes or like Bumblebee or Optimus Prime. If you take them out of a piece of media like that and they're that influential, the fans would literally be all over that so much that you wouldn't even want to watch that piece of material. And honestly, Predaking is being out of the show is one of the main reasons, if not almost the be-all, end-all, as to why Starscream not only coming back made the show suck even more, but makes the show suck in its entirety. And honestly, I could have forgiven almost half of the mistakes that they made. But that was the hugest freaking piece of bullcrap I've ever heard in my life. And then it only gets worse. Now, I know. I just literally ranted for like a half hour and built up this huge explanation. But oh, no. It gets worse, my friends. Because not only does Starscream doing all this and all this happen make absolutely no sense, but the fact that he finds the Dark Star Saber, which literally is almost impossible, because if there was a way to bring back the Dark Star Saber, why didn't Megatron or Unicron think to grab it whenever Unicron resurrected Megatron in the first place? They were like, oh, better forget about that weapon. Let's just go to Cybertron, you know? That would have been the moment to bring back the Dark Star Saber. But nope, Starscream just gets it because, you know, just because. And then they give him his old G1 design, which, if anything, is literally, it literally drops his character. Because think about it. Starscream's Transformers design and his voice was spot on. Like the live action films. It was literally one of his best pieces of work, you know? And they just down it. They just down it by giving him his G1 design. No. Don't get me wrong. His G1 design does not suck. And I'm not hating on G1. Because I've looked into a bit of G1, and I plan to look into more of it. But I really don't care for it through and through, like, watching through all of it in its entirety. You know? Just bits and pieces. But if anything, they not only just gave him the Dark Star Saber just because, and literally made it so that there was no explanation on Predaking. Starscream shouldn't even be alive, for Christ's sake. But they literally give him the... There's just so much wrong with Starscream coming back. And they make him the main villain for Transformers Prime, Robots in Disguise. And it's just pathetic. Because you could have done so much more with the villain for the story. And then it just gets worse. And just to answer your question really quick, what's your thoughts on Bumblebee dying in one of the comics? I don't look into the comics, by the way. I don't read the comics. So sorry, I can't really answer your question. But anyway, to continue. And then we move forward with the show. And oh my god, it just keeps getting worse. Because after everything I just mentioned, you would think that, oh, that's enough to hate the show and just like say, oh, I'm not watching this, like literally. But no, my friends, oh my god, it gets so much ungodly worse. Like, it would literally make anyone bash their head off a freaking brick wall. Like, literally. So, to move forward with how much the show is literally taking away any sort of enjoyment for a Transformers Prime piece of media, they never acknowledge Megatron ever again. Like, I get it. Starscream was thinking about remodeling the Decepticons in his name. But if they did that without the Predacons, like, if they did that without the Predacons literally pretty much killing him at the end of Transformers Prime, that I would have accepted that, you know, a revenge plan. Starscream becoming the leader for the second time, because he became the leader right at the beginning of Transformers Prime. That would have been fine. But the fact that they bring him back in the most idiotic, stupid, and pathetic way ruins the revenge plot. Absolutely botches it. Every way, shape, and form. Literally. And there's just so much more that you could have added. And they never acknowledge Megatron. Yes, I know. Megatron acknowledged the fact that the Decepticons are no more, and he pretty much just flew off. But you would think, after everything that went on Cybertron, everything that went on Earth, everything that went on during the show, you would think that they would have brought back Megatron, at least for a cameo. Or for, like, to get revenge on Starscream or something and kill him himself once and for all. You know, the one thing that he never freaking did, and how he awarded Starscream so many chances for redemption, and yet never killed him after coming close so many bloody times. Like, it gets annoying, the fact that he never killed him. But he never does. He never shows up, and he's literally forgotten. And not only is this big, like the Predaking thing, but it's worse. Now, I know, I just mentioned that Predaking being in is a huge deal and everything, but this is just as, if not bigger, of a deal. Because of one teeny tiny crucial little thing. They bring back Optimus. You know, the guy who literally merged with Cybertron. You know, merged the Matrix and himself and everything with the center of the core and the Allspark that was merged with the Matrix, and he was one with the Allspark. You know, that whole big emotional finale to Transformers Prime, like pretty much the best finale that you could ever ask for. They ruined it by bringing him back with little to no explanation as to how or why. Like, literally. If they brought him back at the very end as like a monument to what the Autobots grew into, I would have ate that up, no freaking problem. But they bring him back with literally no explanation. Absolutely none. Nothing. And it's like, at that point, where's Megatron? Like, literally. If you're going to bring back Optimus, bring back Megatron. And then they bring back Galvatron, who was one of the original Primes or something. I know almost nothing about Galvatron. That was the closest that they got to bringing back Megatron, was doing that. And they couldn't even do that right, because it mixed with Starscream and Soundwave, and yet we never see Shockwave. So, like, the villain plot is all over the place. There's not a centerpiece villain, and there's not even a good enough plot to build in to the Decepticons, because it doesn't even matter. Like, I get it. There's multiple Decepticons, and there shouldn't be a centerpiece villain if there's Decepticons. But, like, there's no central plot. Literally. Every piece of plot all over the place is just scattered. There's no actual formatted plan or plot. Decepticons and Autobots, sorry, my throat's getting dry, yelling all this and talking. There's no central plot, and there's no rhyme or reason to the character's existence or why they're back. Starscream is the main focal point of that. And the fact that they forget right off and completely destroy the legacy of all the rest of the characters makes it worse by default. And that should be number one obvious, if anything. If you're going to make a sequel to a universally awesome show, then you have... Okay, I died again. I just keep getting bodied, like, instantly. If you're going to make a sequel, the one thing you do not do is put new characters into the franchise without making them mean something and passing the torch. Because when you get to, basically, Scream 5 did this. It made new characters put in to the Scream franchise, but remembered the legacy of what the franchise built. And Transformers Robots in Disguise had that whole, like, goal set put in place for them, and they botched it up. The story, the characters, nothing made sense. Absolutely nothing. And the only good thing that the show did was show how Soundwave actually managed to escape the Shadow Zone, you know? And that was cool. I actually really liked that. But there is another problem with that. Because remember, Soundwave wasn't the only one locked into the Shadow Zone at the end of Robots or Transformers Prime. Remember, Terracon Skyquake, who was, you know, forever in search of his missing limb. He was in the Shadow Zone as well. But do we ever see him again? No. That was the perfect opportunity to use him as a soldier. Or maybe, I don't know, revitalize his spark or something? But no, we get nothing. Terracon Skyquake is completely forgotten about. So, all in all, and also, not only does all of this center around the fact that Robots in Disguise is not only the worst sequel, not only the worst standalone show, but the worst piece of Transformers media in the entire history of forever. It just doesn't work. Like, if there was any sequel to something, or show or movie-based franchise that literally destroys a franchise or dishonors it, Robots in Disguise, this variation is a clear-cut example as to why some things do not need to continue. Now, don't get me wrong. Many sequels to shows and movies have surpassed the original, 100%. But not Robots in Disguise. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If anything, it ruins the legacy to what a good show and what a good piece of Transformers media built. There is absolutely no reason as to why they had to dishonor it. They did very few things right in that show. They did very few things right. For example, they brought back Soundwave. That was cool. They showed or tried to show new characters, and that was fine. They just did it the wrong way. Transformers Prime is an example of what makes Transformers unique and completely work as a universal franchise. And Robots in Disguise, there is barely any sequels to Transformers media out there besides the whole live action films and Transformers Prime. There are very few, to my knowledge, sequels to media revolving the entire Transformers franchise. And Transformers, hi, TF Motion Freak. Yeah. Basically, I explained that if you want to watch it back, you can, because I want people to watch this back, like even the Lori one last year. So, all in all, I've been saying that Transformers Prime is the most ungodly, undeserving, universally piece of crap sequel to anything. It doesn't work as a standalone. It doesn't work as a sequel, and it certainly does not work as a piece of Transformers media at all, any way, shape, or form. Megatron never came back. They got rid of characters like RC and Wheeljack, Knockout. They brought so many new characters in, and they destroyed the legacy as to what almost all the characters that were there. They brought back Optimus with no rhyme or reason and destroyed the end of Transformers Prime in its entirety. They brought back Arachnid, even though she's a mother freaking Terracon with no RC in sight. And they literally bring back Starscream, even though I'm 90% sure that with 3 Predacons surrounding him, okay, if there was any point to kill Starscream, he was almost dead 38 times and over that in the show. And if there was any freaking way to kill him, you have to kill him there. But no, he just comes back. You know, it's like, oh, I killed all 3 Predacons. Bull! Killing Skylinks and Darksteel, that works. But no, Predaking literally took on Magnus and Wheeljack and literally came out smashing Magnus's hand and almost killing the both of them after the both of them pretty much bodied him, and he still almost killed them both. And he fought Optimus to a standstill and almost killed him. And if he had transformed into Beast and Starscream didn't help him, Predaking would have killed Megatron, no sweat. I don't care if you're a gladiator of Kaon. It literally shows Predaking could have killed Megatron. And then you dishonor Starscream's look by reverting him to his G1 self, magically giving him the Dark Star Saber, never showing Megatron ever again, getting rid of half the cast, including the humans, but you bring back Ratchet? No. That does not, no. And you bring in all these new Autobots and characters, but you ruin the legacy as to what those characters stand for. And then bringing Optimus back was almost one of the worst parts. And there was no central villain, no central plot, no central of anything. So all in all, the entire point of this stream was to show that if there was ever a time that you do not need to make a sequel to anything, Robots in Disguise is a clear-cut example. Robots in Disguise, in closing, did not need to exist. You could have done one of three things. You could have either A, made a Transformers Prime Season 4, and that probably would have done something, or better yet, number 2, leave the franchise alone! Like, literally, it ended off the best way that you could end off a show. It ended with Optimus sacrificing himself, Megatron basically turning good, Starscream dying. Yes, that's canon. I don't care if Robots in Disguise is canon or not. The kids can eat that stuff up. To people like us who look into the story and know what Robots in Disguise is, it doesn't matter. It literally is garbage. I don't care if you brought back Starscream and consider it canon. It's not canon. Starscream is freaking dead. Nothing in Robots in Disguise happened. I don't care what people say. It literally, none of it ever happened. It's not canon. So you could have either A, made a season 4, that would have been, decent. You could have left the franchise alone, which would have literally been better for everybody. Or you could have made Robots in Disguise the sequel to a great freaking show from one of the best freaking, pieces of media in the entire world. Transformers stands out, not just the live action films and, Transformers Prime, my only real 2 favorite besides looking into characters from other sources of media. It stands out to kids, babies, teens, adults as one of the best freaking pieces of media that you'll ever look into. If there's a franchise or something that you wish to see, Transformers stands as literally one of the best. And Robots in Disguise, all I can say is that it's the only piece of Transformers media that I've seen that is literally the most god-awful. I don't know one person out there who doesn't hate not only Transformers Robots in Disguise, but I don't know another piece of Transformers media that has sparked as much anger, hate, or literally unwavering resolve to, rant on this than Robots in Disguise has. And I think that honestly, it should have been left with Transformers Prime being left alone. Some things do not need a sequel. And Robots in Disguise, you already had a Robots in Disguise before this. So that makes it even worse. You literally name it after one other piece of Transformers media, all right? And you fail to deliver with the same branded name. And what makes it worse is that people who love Transformers Prime probably hate it now because of what Robots in Disguise did. So congratulations, people of developers of Transformers Robots in Disguise. You successfully failed to keep a generation of Transformers fans loving and remembering Transformers Prime for what it stood for. And instead, we all have to look at Transformers from a regular standard with Transformers Prime and not want to see a sequel. Because, sequels to movies and shows are generally made 9 times out of 10 for the money. But sometimes they actually surpass and go beyond the level of standard that people expect it to be, and it's actually really good. Newsflash, not everything needs a sequel. Not everything needs to be cash grabbed in order to make it good. Transformers Prime was already good. It was literally one of the best, if not the best, piece of Transformers media in the history of forever. And Robots in Disguise freaking up and ruined it within the flick of a switch. So, my advice to any Transformers fan out there, if you know Transformers and you've seen Transformers Prime and you haven't seen Robots in Disguise, or if you're looking to get into both of those things, do not watch Robots in Disguise. I can tell you from a personal standpoint, and plenty of freaking reviews on it, because I'm not the only one who rants on it, that Robots in Disguise is literally the last piece of Transformers media that you should ever or want to ever look at. If you want to love Transformers, if you want to see Transformers Prime, if you want to love the Transformers community and franchise as a whole, Robots in Disguise is the last thing that you should want to look at. Now, don't get me wrong. If things like Rescue Bots, which is not bad, it's just for babies, and this are modeled towards babies and kids, and that's the reason why they consider it standalone, that's fine. But to people who watch Transformers Prime and understand the story, they make what-ifs about it, so it's clearly not all for kids and babies, then Robots in Disguise follows along the lines of Transformers Prime and what it stood for. So all in all, that makes Robots in Disguise even more worse. So, just like Lori Grimes last year, this was a stream to talk about not only just a character, but an entire show that basically slanders not only Prime, but Transformers as a whole. You could have made anything else. You could have made anything else, not just Transformers, but you literally could have made something that stuck out to fans of a franchise or just something good. But instead, you ruin not only the legacy of a great show, but the legacy of an entire Universal franchise by making a god-awful, repeated name just completely cash-grabbed, worthless sequel. So all in all, don't look into the sequel, because trust me, it will ruin your field of experience, and honestly, Transformers Prime is better left singly watched for everybody and remembered the way that it was made. So, that's pretty much all I have to talk about for Robots in Disguise. So, with all that said, I do have a few announcements before we end the stream. And yeah, I think ranted way more than I did in my Lori stream. And I guarantee you I got a little uppity in that one. But then again, you could probably barely see my body because of how I did my thing back then. And many of you are not The Walking Dead fans. So you guys probably aren't going to watch that anyway. Probably just to watch it just for kicks. But I do have a few announcements before I end off the stream. First off, if you guys haven't seen all my socials on the Omniverse, including here, and the Discord and the Patreon, I have made a channel mascot who I call Omni for the Omniverse of Nick. And he is branded as to not only show what this Omniverse and channel represents, but to honestly show as a figure behind the ideas that I put on my Google Doc. And I even made a whole account and everything based around Omni, and it's completely AI made and descripted by me. And the only thing that I really did to show that I put in a true, centerpiece aspect into him, everything else was fan-made besides the name, which was just stuck out Omni for me, because it's Omni for the Omniverse of Nick, so it works. And I'm basically going to brand him as the symbol to what the stories and the channel means, as any channel mascot should. And basically, I will in this Omniverse, model him to be the one behind the ideas that are put on my Google Doc. So if ever you guys go on my Google Doc and look at my ideas, you won't see the Omniverse of Nick or my offline old Pro Gamer Nick account, Triforceful God. Instead, you will see omni at so-and-so at gmail.com. So, especially if you guys haven't looked at the picture yet, it's pretty freaking epic for the channel mascot. And it's also something really cool that my brother, who you've seen on the streams before, told me to do because of another YouTuber, Danny Moda, who did something similar and created his own. I also created him for the sole purpose of wanting to make a character that wasn't from a franchise. Like, I wanted it to be completely fan-made and not modeled after a franchise. I wanted him to be my creation. So you guys get that much? And I think I did a really good job. So there's that. And once again, I will be taking a break from making stories until the What If Frieza Turned Good, which is pre-recorded to part 3, by the way, is complete on YouTube. And then I will be working on the next 2 stories, and I will be Discord gaming until then. So, and upgrading the Patreon and all my channel stuff little by little. It upgrades every day, because once again, this is what I'm striving for forever. So, yeah, you guys more or less didn't already know that about me. But overall, I wanted to once again do something fun for April Fools, because besides Christmas, it's just another way to interact with you guys who even watch it back. Last year's stream got 91 views and 4 likes. I don't know how many this is going to get in the next year, so we'll definitely see how that goes. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this stream and equally think about how much Robots in Disguise sucks the same as me. So with all that said, if you guys have future requests that you maybe want me to do for like future April Fools, go ahead. We have a year to think about it, and I could possibly change my mind. But requests, I'm not going to take that away from you guys. You guys definitely deserve to put your input in, not only about the show and not only about Lori Grimes or anything, but like future stuff besides just requests for what ifs and stuff that you guys want to put in. You guys deserve that. So with all that said, if you guys wish to do that, be my guest. And also, since I'm mentioning Christmas, I figured that since I mentioned it around this time last year, that I was doing, first it was to the whole Deck the Halls, and then 12 Days of Christmas. That was the order that I did it in. For the Christmas songs, I'm going to spoil right now and then make a post about it very, very soon to what the next Christmas special will be this year, December 2025. First, it was Deck the Halls, then 12 Days of Christmas. This year, it will be Have a Holly Jolly Christmas, Omniverse of Nick Edition. So, I'll be making a post about that very, very soon, most likely, dependent on what's going on or when I feel like particularly doing that. And with all that said, I will see you guys later. All the stuff constantly updates. Thank you for those of you who did join and want to watch it back. I'll definitely make some stuff about that known and everything, since I did mostly give reminders. Possibly people will be watching it back. And with all that said, I'll see you guys later and just in a minute on the Discord. Thank you for those of you who did join this year's April Fools. And feel free to comment stuff for next year's April Fools. And I'll see you guys later.